Let's be honest with ourselves. Do we tend to think first or feel first? Today we're going to be talking about reason versus emotion, specifically 3 key themes. First, striking the balance between the two. Second, familiarity as inevitability. And third, how uncertainty can actually promote humility. If you're new to my channel, welcome to Classic Casey, where we explore big ideas and also geek out about classic movies and television too. And if you're returning, thank you and welcome back. Also exciting news is that today is the start of Movie Mondays, so we'll be referencing the classic film 12 Angry Men as we explore some of these ideas. So, if you are ready to explore reason versus emotion, pull up a seat and let's dive in. As usual, let's start by defining our terms so that we're on the same page. When we say reason, we're talking about the ability to think logically, basically using our own analytical thinking to either form a judgment or draw a conclusion. Emotion, on the other hand, is the ability to feel. It's when we use our own experiences or senses to either identify motivations or react to something. Reason focuses on facts and reality. It seeks to understand how. Emotion, on the other hand, focuses on feelings and perception. It seeks to understand why. So I'm gonna run a quick scenario, and I wanna see which one that you really tend toward. Let's say you and I are now best friends. Hey there. And we connect on every level. We share the same values, hobbies, interests. We're basically 2 peas in a pod. But there's one problem. I remind you of somebody else that you knew, a former best friend that you had years ago. And you guys connected on every level too. In fact, you guys were so close, but one day they hurt you so badly, your friendship was completely destroyed. Now, let's stop. What's going on with you right now? Do you have a tight feeling in your chest? Maybe a sense of bodily cringe? Something that's telling you, something could go wrong with this new best friend because of what happened in the past? Or are you still thinking about me, your current bestie, as an individual? Are you able to acknowledge this past experience that you might remember so well, but still see me and not who I might resemble? See, this is really where we get to our first theme, which is the role of reason versus emotion, and the line that we often have to straddle in order to keep them both in balance. It's trying to understand basically whether we default to what we feel versus what is actually true. Notice I didn't say what we know to be true, because that's still subjective. A lot of the times we like to think of our personal experience as facts in themselves. And while personal experience is helpful and real data, it's still based off of our perception of reality, not reality itself. Now, I'm not suggesting that we can switch reason and emotion on or off, or that we can only interpret reality only through emotion or only through reason. As we all know, a lot of how we respond to situations depends a lot on the context. But let's consider which of these we tend to default to, and what happens when emotion and reason aren't balanced. Let's go back to our friendship scenario. If your mind defaults to emotion, maybe you'll start to see things that aren't really there. Maybe I laugh or talk like that former bad best friend, and you pick up on those things. Now, our friendship isn't being built upon what it is, but what it resembles. On the flip side, if you default to evaluating our friendship through logic, you may be missing out on some personal experience that might actually help you with initiating some caution. I mean, even if nothing bad ever happens, that gut feeling, that intuition, could actually be really helpful in this scenario. Now, I know that this is hard, because we often have to learn how to strike that balance, right? Valuing both emotion and reason equally. But if we aren't careful, it is very possible that one of them can start to dominate and not only influence how we perceive reality, but also how we make decisions. And this gets into the second theme for today, which is when familiarity becomes inevitability, when emotion no longer serves as a counterbalance to reason. Now, as I mentioned, one of the goals of this channel is to introduce you to some amazing classic films and television, just briefly so that you're curious enough to continue to explore these big ideas, but also check out some of these classics too. And I think 12 Angry Men is the perfect film to touch on to explore this idea further. Now, if you don't know, 12 Angry Men is a legal film drama that was created in 1957. And I'm not gonna give away the ending, but let's just say that 12 angry men literally sit in a jury room one night. And they're tasked with something that most people never have to ever experience. They have to decide whether to acquit or convict a teenage boy. And let's just say he's accused of a pretty serious offense. As soon as the lead juror takes the first vote, everybody votes guilty, except for one person, juror number 8. And this makes everybody really angry because they don't have time for this. They have places to go and people to see. They don't have time to debate whether or not this boy is really guilty because he so obviously is. But despite all of that and all of the pushback that he gets, juror number 8 advocates that they hash it out. And so, over the course of a hot, sweltering summer evening, they do just that. And this is where things get really interesting, because as they start to debate, their personal opinions and judgments and biases start to come out, and they actually start to compete with, if not replace, the facts of the actual case. This is where a lot of them assume that familiarity leads to inevitability, like we just mentioned. I'll give you a quick example. There's a part in the film where the jurors start to dissect this kid's background. Now, he's from a poor neighborhood, so he's considered a slum kid. And to the other jurors, he looks just like all of the other slum kids that they see every single day. He looks like them, he talks like them, he walks like them. And so, obviously, he is one of them, right? I mean, in their mind, a bad environment breeds bad behavior, which leads to bad outcomes. Isn't that logical? In fact, one juror gets so angry at one point that he starts to liken this teenage boy to his own son. And he says that bad kids always turn out rotten, and the only way to correct bad kids is through punishment, and punishment only. There's this distortion of reality, like we just talked about, and I think it's really unsettling to see it played out in film, but it's also really terrifying to think about how this affects us in our everyday lives. I mean, think about it. How many assumptions do we make every single day that literally determine the course of our own lives? What places have we avoided? Maybe people we haven't reached out to, things that we've never tried, all because of what we assumed. And I'd even go a step further to ask us, has it been worth it? And this leads us to our last theme, which is really somewhat of an uncomfortable question to ask ourselves. Is being certain the same thing as being correct? You see, reason, unlike emotion, leads with doubt, not certainty. It takes a level of humility to honestly say, I know what I feel, I know what I've seen and what I've experienced. You know, I even know what others have seen and feel and experienced. And yet, I, and maybe even they, may be wrong. It's both the willingness and awareness to admit that we could be wrong and open ourselves up to the difficult process of examining rather than confirming our own bias. So the closing question I'd like to leave you with today is, the next time you make a decision, what if instead of asking yourself, am I right, you ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? If you like to watch the movie 12 Angry Men, you can watch it for free on Pluto TV. And no, this video is not sponsored. And please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you check out the film or what big idea or classic film you'd like to explore next on Movie Mondays. Until next time, stay curious about the classics.